Welcome to the NGO Whisperer Show in partnership with Behenet. This is a show that celebrates men and women from around the world who are making an impact in people's lives. My name is Carolyne Opinde. I am the founder of the NGO Whisperer, a consulting business that helps nonprofits raise funds so they can successfully impact people's lives. Today, we are joined by Dr. Bruno Pauly. Dr. Bruno is a philanthropist, a humanitarian, and a practicing doctor at Hani Baragwanath Hospital. Hani Baragwanath Hospital is one of the largest hospitals in the world, and it's based here in South Africa. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
It is such a pleasure to have you, for you to drive all the way to forgo your patience today for us and to speak to our audience. To start us off, you are originally from Germany. You are a medical doctor. How did you get into non-profit work, working with the communities in Soweto and other informal settlements in South Africa?
I trained in Germany. Then after my training, I went to the United Kingdom. I did my internship there and I started working as a practitioner in the United Kingdom. That's where I met my now wife, and we got married in South Africa. So that's the first thing. The first step is coming to South Africa. So I've been living in South Africa since 1996. And because initially I was not allowed to work as a doctor, as a medical doctor, I had to find something to do and keep myself busy. So at the time I was working in the UK, then living in South Africa, working in the UK, living in South Africa. And that's where I started being interested in projects that work with youth initially, because my starting career in medicine was pediatrics, although now I'm an adult physician. And that's how I came to start working in projects, initially mainly in the HIV/AIDS field, which was up and coming at the time, doing workshops, helping youth to learn more about it, and then more and more into poverty alleviation. That's how my career started here in South Africa.
So as a pediatrician, I know you have been instrumental in starting up a preschool in one of the poorest informal settlements in South Africa. Could you please share with us how that all started and where you are at today?
Yeah, so this is, it's called the Loretto Educational Center. So it's a learning center that was established initially by a Salesian sister who was asked by women living in this community. It's called Jacksonstrift, which is a squatter camp, and their main problem was that they didn't have a safe place for the little ones while they were looking for work, for day jobs. So they asked this Salesian sister, Sister Mary, if she could provide a safe creche for the children. And at the same time, they also were asking her if she could actually train some of the women to get some employment opportunities for them. So she then got some money from the Irish embassy, and she got some containers where she started a creche for initially about 20 children, 30 children. And then when I came to join, that was about 50, 55 children. When I first saw this project, it was actually a bit like a fluke, because at the time I was working with a different project that had kind of like gone bust. So we had a few problems. So I had just done some fundraising in Germany, and with these funds I wanted to actually come and work in this project that then didn't exist anymore by the time I came to South Africa. So I was looking for a new place, and that's where I ended up. So when I met Sister Mary at the time, I always call it like, I mean, she's a nun, but it's love at first sight, because we clicked very much.
Yes.
From the beginning, because we had the same vision, same ideas. The only difference was that she was doing the work on the ground, and I had a little bit of money at the time to spend on the project and develop it there. That's how we actually started. Yeah.
So that's how Loretto Educational Center, which is a registered non-profit in South Africa, started.
Yeah.
And that was in 1999, or what year was it?
So she started in 1999, started to build this place. I joined her in 2000, And we actually registered Loretto in 2003 as a non-for-profit organization. Before that, it was one of these, what you would call grassroots organizations, like there are many in South Africa, where either individual or small groups do a lot of good work, but they're not organized, they don't have a constitution, they don't have, let's say, good financial books and all these things. And that's when we started in 2003. That's when we started having let's say, the legal framework to do the work that we are doing now. And then we started building from there. Yeah.
I know that you have had so many children graduating out of this preschool and excelling. How many children do you have per year? Looking at maybe the recent figures, because I know as you started small, but you are growing and you are at a place where you can give us an annual figure of children who pass through this preschool.
Yeah, initially the idea was just to have a creche, a preschool, and the initial idea was to just keep it at about 50, 60 children, but then the numbers kept increasing and increasing, and also with the children getting older, there is no facilities in the surroundings, so the parents actually were begging us to keep the children, and so from the preschool where we started, we then ended up in starting a grade 1, and then the parents begged us to have a grade 2, and then the parents begged us to have a grade 3, and that's how we now have 500 children that are in our care. Roughly half is preschool, the other half is grade 1 to grade 3. They get 3 meals a day, they get education, we play a lot with them, especially for the preschool children. A lot of it is development, a lot of it is health improvement by just nutrition, simple nutrition. A lot of the children who come to us, when they come the first 2-3 months, they are very behind in development, very behind in malnutrition issues. And within 2-3 months, just by the 3 meals that we give them, there is a lot of improvement there. So that's about 500 children. We do have a feeding scheme, and then on top of it, we have a nice going library with a literacy support program. We do after-school support program for the older children who have left Loretto, but also from the whole community, where we give them a little bit of support in getting better marks and better matric results. We have got computer literacy program. We do learnership groups that we have started organizing at the place. We've got about nearly 30 people that we employ, so there's a lot of employment going on where all the most of the, not all now anymore, but most of the teachers that we are employing at the moment, they all have been trained through the Loretto system. So at the moment, for example, we've got 6 teachers. We are training to become teachers, so they start as auxiliary teachers, and then they help run in the classes, and while they are teaching and working for us at the same time, they go to colleges part-time. And we have a bursary program as well, where some of the matriculants who come now through the Loretto system, they now get bursaries, and we help them to get some better education.
And this is bursaries for tertiary education?
That is for tertiary education, yes.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So not only are you supporting them before they even go to school, preschool, now you have grown to going up to grade 3, formal education, and following up. Follow-up is a critical component of ensuring that services that someone receives, whether it's 1 year or 2 year, the follow-up after the services is what really makes a difference in a community. And the model that you have is an excellent model, really. I know this because I work with you, through the NGO Wespera with raising funds. And I love the model that you have. One question that I have for you is, what is it that will take Loretto Educational Center to the next level? The plans that you have. Could you please look at the camera and let the audience know what is it that you need, whether it's from other philanthropists like you, the government, or even the civil society organization, other non-profits, or the corporate organization?
Yeah. So one of the biggest problems we have for Loretto is funding, because we are an independent school operating in an informal settlement, which is an area which we call it a squatter camp in South Africa, but it's an area where there is people living in extreme poverty, in shacks, and there is no housing. They only recently got proper water facilities. There's no pollution facilities. So in this environment, we are not able to register the school. So what we did over the last 20 years is we actually entirely relied on corporate funding and mainly private funding through friends and families and visitors who come and help us to do this. So funding is a big issue for us. We started off as the funding model was like one of where probably lots of little small organizations start is family and friends. Like in my area, it's family and friends from Germany who helped to fund it, and that worked very well for us until about 6 years ago, when we suddenly had an impact, or we saw an impact of the economic problems that we had in Europe translating into less funding coming through here. And we've been trying to get funding from the government, but this is a little bit of a red tape issue in South Africa here, where independent schools are not that supported. So funding is the biggest issue.
The biggest issue that you have. So I know that you have another program that you have recently started, which is about 1 year old, Soweto Business Center. Could you please tell us where Soweto Business Center is situated and why you came about with this opportunity for young people that you created?
Yeah, so Soweto Business Center is in Soweto, which is what we call Southwestern Township. It's one of the old historical parts of Johannesburg, which was created in the apartheid times. And lots of the important people, like Nelson Mandela, they were living there, Desmond Tutu, Winnie Mandela. So these are the probably more popular ones. And it's a big township where youth unemployment is a huge problem, but also small business development is a small problem. The way we come now from Loretto to Soweto Business Center was mainly that we saw that the children grew up, and initially we focused on the young children, on the small children, but then we realized that now, the last 3-4 years, the first students that came through Loretto, they started with matric, or they completed matric, and they were in that big group of unemployed youth that we find in South Africa. So the question was, how can we actually support them? Initially, we thought we can tackle that problem with just giving bursaries to these guys. But the problem is that not everyone can go to high school, not everyone can go to college, not everyone can go to a tertiary
and that is a mistake. Program. Yes, and that is a mistake that so many parents make. They think that if you finish matric, the next step is to go to university.
Yeah.
But not everyone can go, as you say.
Yeah. So then the idea was to start some kind of like of a business center, a business hub, a place where people can work together, cooperate, where people can get training like learnership programs, can get vocational training. But we felt at the time that at Loretto, in the squatter camp, the number of, let's say, target people was too small to get that. And the other problem was funding. So we developed then a system, or let's say a model, where we thought we can only fund this by partly, so it's a hybrid form of commercial income and corporate funding for the things that we want to do, let's say training courses and all these things. So that's when we came then to Soweto, because I noticed that when I was trying to run learnership groups in the Soweto area, we had the same problem. There was no spaces, no meeting spaces for these young people or to run these groups. And that's where this whole idea started. So we created a business hub in Soweto where we are renting out space at a fairly affordable place for small businesses, for entrepreneurs, and with that income we're trying to run or to cover our running costs, and then the surplus that we get through corporate funding or through funding from groups that are doing let's say that are doing workshops, that are doing learnership groups, all these things. So that is all coming as an extra. So this is essentially the funding, and our aim is to create a living, working, training, meeting space where the community members in the Soweto area can grow their businesses, can meet, can learn together, can get training, But also in a long term, we hope that this model of having a commercial income, but at the same time then relying on, let's say, corporate funding or other sponsorships and donors to fund the things that are quite expensive in terms of coaching lessons or things like that. And we would like this model to be transferred as a franchise or as a subsidiary in even poorer areas than Soweto is, because we are lucky in Soweto that we have a group of entrepreneurs who can pay rental. But for example, if we had wanted to do the same project in the Loretto area, there is no clientele who actually is able to afford a rental, and so that commercial side would have been probably
Not
a failure.
possible.
It wouldn't been.
Yeah.
It would not be possible.
So Soweto Business Hub, I'm trying to picture this for people who haven't been there. When you walk in, it is a fully functional co-working space that can compete with any other co-working space in London, in New York, or whatever. You have all the facilities. You have the internet connectivity. You have everything that someone needs to come and run their business there.
Yeah, exactly. So it's copied from the other co-working spaces that people have been running for years now in the, let's say, the metropolitan centers in the richer areas. It's just and in Johannesburg there is also more than 15 that are probably available, but only in the richer areas of Johannesburg.
Yeah.
So in Soweto there was no space like that.
So what is unique with you is you are bringing this amazing facility right to disadvantaged and vulnerable people who may not afford to go to other very affluent neighborhoods to find a co-working space.
Exactly, where they find it difficult, for example, to have internet connection. They find it difficult to make phone calls. They find it difficult to have a receptionist, for example. So this is all what are basic business needs that you need as a small business owner or an entrepreneur, but it's very difficult to run, number one, organization-wise, but also it's very costly to have a secretariat. So all these costs are coming down for these young people to start a business at a much lower entry cost, and that is what we're trying to achieve.
Absolutely fabulous. How many small-sized entrepreneurs are now renting from you on a month-to-month basis?
So we've got 9 offices that are fully occupied. Then we've got one big meeting area that is not running as well as I would like it to run at the moment. So I think we could have many more people making use of that space because it's also quite affordable. And then we've got probably about 20 people who use the co-working space. It's still a new thing for the people in Soweto, and it's coming, it's increasing. But it's the co-working space started a little bit slower than I was expecting from what I hear from the I call it the north, but from the richer areas of Johannesburg, where the co-working space is much more attractive to people.
Yeah.
Seems that in Soweto maybe people want that private. We're not quite sure why that market is not there, but the numbers are coming, the numbers are increasing. Yeah.
It would be interesting to ask them why they would prefer to have their own offices as opposed to an open kind of system where you're sitting at a desk and tomorrow you have to sit elsewhere. You never know what could be the reason why. One thing that I would like also to emphasize with Soweto Business Hub is the fact that not all the spaces are rented. There are spaces that organizations can hold workshops in. How big is your largest room, or how small is your smallest meeting room that myself as an entrepreneur, if I'm holding a workshop, I can come to you and say, I need space for XYZ.
So we've got space for people, groups from anything to 2 people meeting, up to probably 40-45 people is the maximum that we can accommodate in one big
conference room.
Yeah,
with all the facilities, and you can have your Zoom webinars and everything with internet running and no technical hitches at all.
Yeah. Internet is sometimes still a problem in the Soweto area. It's just the infrastructure is not there.
Yeah.
Also, South Africa has got a little bit of problems with electricity, but taking that aside, yeah, it's a fully functioning business hub where you get all these facilities. Yeah.
Wonderful. And I also know that during the weekends you also host people coming in with different things. I know there's going to be something like a roadshow this weekend. Give us examples of corporate organizations, of people who have held events at Soweto Business Hub.
Yeah, so we had like an event that Redefine is one of the big property agencies here. They also do a lot of entrepreneur development, where they had a kind of competition where people could come present their business idea, and then they chose one or two businesses that they are now promoting. We have a lot of smaller organizations who come now. And we are inviting local communities as well to come, and they can use that space for free. It's getting more and more lively. I think initially we had a little bit of problems that people didn't know where we are. Advertising, marketing was a little bit of a struggle to get into the ideas of people that we are present, but we managed to do this now, and I think we're getting quite a lot more requests now of small groups and also bigger groups who come. There's Standard Bank, for example, so we've got banks who are coming to make use of the facilities for training. We've got smaller businesses as well, like lawyers who do training for their staff, or finance advisors who do small groups where they do training or where they try to advertise their products. So it is getting more and more lively.
Wonderful. And your hub, the Soweto Business Hub, is located at Maponya Mall, one of the largest malls also in Johannesburg, which is very uniquely, positioned for people to have access to other services. Can you just tell us, from just the Maponya Mall area, are you looking to expanding it? Because I know there's possibility of expanding the hub to accommodate more people.
We are actually at the limit of our capacity now with office space. So we're trying to get more office space, which at the moment is a little bit of a problem because the center space is actually there is no center space available at this stage. At the same time, we do not have the financial means of expanding at this stage to have, let's say, a satellite in another area of Soweto. That's a little bit of a challenge that hopefully we can solve within the next year or so. We've been promised to get bigger space, but that so far unfortunately has just been promises. And once we get this one, then we will be able to increase the capacity. Yeah.
So for now, the hub as it is, it's at full capacity when it comes to renting an office on a month-to-month basis for those who are renting their own offices.
Yes.
However, the co-working space is available for anyone who wants to come and work there. If they find themselves in Soweto and they have a meeting, they can also hire a meeting room and have a conference call with their clients. And if they have an event, they can also hire a venue up to 40 people sitting in a room. That is such a wonderful model.
And it's close to, if you take Soweto, it's close to the motorway where we are. So it's about 10 minutes away from the motorway. It is safe, even though people think Soweto is not the safest place, but it is safe. The shopping center itself is a safe place. And that was one of the reasons to choose this venue as well, to make sure that people who come from outside of Soweto, who do not know Soweto and have reservations of Soweto, that they also feel that that's a place they can go to and see clients and do events. Where we still have capacity is community events. So we still invite local communities to actually come and hold their meetings and use the space a little bit more often.
And this is for free for the local community because this is their space.
Yes.
They need to own it. Thank you so much. Really appreciate the amazing work that you do in South Africa and working with all the people that you're collaborating with. Dr. Bruno, thank you so much for coming today, driving all the way from Hani, Baragwanath to join us at the show today. Really appreciate you.
Thanks.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. From us at the NGO Whisperer and Behenet, we thank you so much for joining us today, and we appreciate you. To learn more about what Dr. Bruno and many other philanthropists and humanitarians are doing in South Africa and around the world, you can go to our website at Behenet or the NGO Whisperer. Thank you so much. It's all about connecting people, raising funds, and impacting lives.